do anything without password.
That's not you.
That's me. Where's that? Oh, she's with me.
Look, man. Where's that?
We don't have a clue.
We need to know. We've processed the car. We found the dirt. Where did you go off-road?
I never went
Where did
off-road
you
with her.
leave?
For 30 years, he sat behind bars. Forgotten by most, but monsters like him, they don't disappear. They wait, and when they return, they pick up right where they left off. Now, 30 years later, 80-year-old Edna Suttles was seen picking him up in a parking lot. That parking lot would be the last place anyone ever saw Edna Suttles. A quiet moment, fading into the ordinary, before vanishing into something far darker. In the following days, detectives investigated Edna's whereabouts, uncovering CCTV footage that captured the same man operating her vehicle.
Where's right now? Her family is desperately looking for her.
She's missing right now.
Yes, Dan, where is Edna?
I don't have a clue.
Yes,
I dropped her off at her house.
Dan?
Yeah.
Please listen. You did not drop her off at her house.
But then, police made a startling discovery. Edna was not the only victim in this case. You're watching Grimvault, true crime that drags the truth from the shadows. On August 27th, 80-year-old Edna Suttles, grandmother, animal lover, fiercely independent, stepped out of her traveler's rest home, unaware that the morning's quiet routine would lead her straight into the hands of a predator. Several hours later, 911 dispatchers got a troubling phone call.
Rutherford County 911, what's the location of your emergency?
The thing is, a fitter was supposed to show up to stay with my mom today, and she's in her 80s, and she didn't show up. We've come to her house, and we can't get nobody to the door or anything. Her name is Edna Suttles. It's not like her. She shows up like clockwork. So something's wrong.
The initial alert was only the tip of a bewildering enigma. When authorities arrived to conduct a wellness check at Edna Suttles' home, prompted by troubling reports, their knocking went unanswered. There were no signs of forced entry, and Edna herself was conspicuously missing. But when investigators spoke with Edna's son, he revealed a critical detail. Not only had approximately $50,000 worth of jewelry vanished, but even more concerning, her vehicle was also gone. Finding that car became paramount, because locating it might be the key to finding Edna. But the search for her car wasn't just about following a trail. It was about peeling back the first layer of a nightmare hiding in plain sight. A comprehensive search for Edna's car commenced immediately. 6 days later, the vehicle was found abandoned in the parking lot of a traveler's rest hotel. The discovery was puzzling, considering Edna lived nearby and had no reason to book a hotel room. Enquiries with the hotel staff confirmed no guest named Edna was registered. To resolve this perplexing puzzle, law enforcement opted to meticulously reconstruct Edna's movements, utilizing surveillance camera footage beginning at her home. At 9:30 a.m., a nearby pawn shop camera captured Edna's silver SUV easing onto the road. It seemed like a mundane moment, yet it quietly marked the first step towards something far more sinister. Just 9 minutes later, Edna's vehicle pulled into the store's parking lot. A man approached her SUV, holding 2 bags, and entered the passenger side. Moments later, Edna drove off, seemingly returning home. 4 hours later, at 1:43 p.m., Edna's vehicle was once again seen leaving her residence. It pulled into the same familiar Food Lion parking lot. But this time, the person emerging from the driver's seat wasn't Edna. It was the same older Caucasian male she had picked up earlier that day. He moved quickly, parking his own car beside Edna's. Then, he proceeded to drag something substantial from Edna's vehicle, transferring it into his own. At first, distinguishing the object being moved from the Jeep to the Chevrolet proved difficult, but a detailed frame-by-frame examination clarified the situation. The critical question wasn't what was transferred, but who. With painstaking precision, detectives isolated a chilling detail: the unmistakable shimmer of Edna's golden hair, tangled, unmoving, lost in the shadows. The cameras only captured part of the story. What do you think happened next? Drop your theory below. Just 4 minutes later, at 1:47 p.m., the man drove Edna's car into the hotel parking lot, leaving it in the identical spot where detectives would later find it. He then exited the vehicle and began assiduously wiping down the doors and seats, attempting to obliterate any trace of his presence. By 2:14 p.m., the man was back in his own car at the Food Lion, driving away. This marked the final observation of both Edna and the unidentified male. The man in the grainy footage wasn't just a suspect. He was the thread between hope and horror, and unraveling him couldn't wait. The paramount objective of the ongoing investigation became identifying the man captured on video. Unfortunately, the low resolution of the footage and his distance from most cameras presented significant hurdles, threatening to bring the inquiry to a standstill. Nevertheless, detectives had an insightful realization. Since the man had exited the store carrying bags, a transaction must have occurred. It was the fracture in the mask, the jagged split, that finally revealed the predator lurking beneath. Immediately, officers began acquiring internal store surveillance footage. Their review led to a grim confirmation. The individual was Daniel Printz. A mere 24 years prior to this incident, specifically in 1997, Daniel Printz had been incarcerated in a federal prison for the abduction of a woman in Michigan. He had restrained her, securing her hands with shackles. It was only by sheer fortune that she managed to liberate herself and escape. Despite receiving a maximum sentence of 30 years for this felony, he was granted parole in 2009. Printz had since taken on work as a handyman, primarily serving elderly single women, a demographic chillingly consistent with both his previous victim and Edna. For the officers, the gravity of the situation was now unmistakably clear. A convicted kidnapper was at large, and a slim possibility existed that Edna remained alive. With her location unknown, swift action was imperative before this fragile hope evaporated. Even with this unsettling background, detectives at this stage lacked sufficient evidence for robust kidnapping or murder charges. Nevertheless, they had established probable cause for grand larceny concerning Edna's Jeep. A warrant for Printz's arrest and a search of his property were secured, and officers were promptly dispatched to Printz's residence to take him into custody. When officers descended on Daniel Printz's property, they expected panic. What they found instead was rehearsed calm, the unnerving arrogance of a man fluent in deception. The subsequent video recordings were examined by a criminal research expert and a retired detective. Their analysis highlighted key interrogation techniques and psychological strategies used throughout the interview process. Once the suspect was escorted into the room, detectives opened with a calm, friendly exchange, a deliberate tactic to lower his defenses and ease him into conversation.
I'm originally from the east side of the state of Michigan, but I was in prison in Michigan for a while, and when I paroled to the west side of the state. And with the police department and stuff, I met her. And
Is there a big difference between east side and west side of Michigan? Because you bring
there's
that
a
up.
huge difference.
The damning footage stayed hidden for now, a silent ace ready to collapse Printz's carefully rehearsed lies.
What'd you get locked up for? Because you said you got paroled.
I got paroled. I was locked up for a kidnapping charge.
Okay.
And I did 13 and a half years for that.
Oh, wow.
I did 1.5 years for a false statement on a vehicle title. They were going to do that in case they didn't get the kidnapping to stick.
Okay.
A false statement on the vehicle title. And it's just, you know, when they're not sure if they're going to make something, they want something to hold you with. So the false statement, that's all that was. The kidnapping, I was doing some bad shit that I shouldn't have been doing.
Fair enough.
But I shouldn't have gotten kidnapping, but I was doing some bad shit.
What kind of shit? What shit have you gotten?
I really don't want to say.
Just bullshit,
Huh?
We're just bullshitting.
nothing when you're talking to two police detectives in a room, it's just bullshit. Okay, I've been through the system enough to know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all I'm gonna say about that is, I did my time, I made my first
Fair
parole,
enough.
and I haven't been in trouble since.
Hey, and that's great to know. You know, a lot of people, especially being what you've been through, they come out and they go right back to it.
Although his criminal record is established, it doesn't automatically connect him to Edna's disappearance.
All
Why
right.
am I here, sir?
I'll talk to you about August 27th, 2021 of this year.
What day of the week was that?
Oh, it was a Friday.
Okay.
Where are you on that day? What's your typical Fridays like?
Some Fridays I go do jobs, some Fridays I stay home, some Fridays I go look at jobs, I do all sorts of things.
Okay, so specifically the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
What, 2 weeks ago? Do you remember where you were at?
Not specifically.
Where do you think you were at?
I've been going all over the place. I've been back and forth to Charlotte, I've been down to South Carolina.
Like, where's your jobs in South Carolina taking you?
Actually, I was down to Traveler's Rest, but I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday. I know I'd been there earlier that week.
Okay. What kind of job were you working on?
I wasn't.
You wasn't?
I wasn't. This lady had talked to me several times. I'd been down to her house 2 or 3 times. We kind of got to be friends. This woman has so many damn problems, mostly her daughter.
Yeah.
And what she did is she had me looking at ductwork that she wanted done. She would call me and have me come down there.
Okay.
And she was constantly having problems. She said she needed to have money at one point in time to help her daughter because her daughter was in jail. Then she needed money another time because she was hiring a private investigator. Because her son-in-law was, she talked to me all kinds of stuff about it. We got to be pretty good friends about stuff like
Okay.
that.
How'd you meet her initially?
Years ago,
Okay.
it was somebody had given me her name or number, or my name and number.
However, the body of evidence, meticulously gathered by the detectives, paints a vastly different portrait than the industrious, reformed ex-convict he asserted himself to be. In this segment, the investigators are keenly observing his reactions, permitting Printz to inadvertently create a predicament for himself from which recovery will be arduous once the truth is laid bare. Upon the disclosure of their knowledge, he is expected to vehemently refute any culpability, even in the face of irrefutable proof.
What you're telling us is that's not you on the 27th? Food Line parking lot, Traveler's Rest?
I don't think so.
That's not you.
That's me. Where's that?
Food Line, August 27th, 2021, 9:23,
Okay.
32 seconds. Ringing a bell?
Yep. Yeah, I went down to Food Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you doing down there that day?
She wanted me to look at some stuff at her house,
Okay.
and she picked me up at Food Lion because she wanted me with her when she was gonna go meet some guy for private investigator.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
She wanted me to meet her down there.
Okay.
She was nervous because she says, I'm not sure I trust this guy. And she knows I've been in the military. And she says, will you meet me? And I go, yeah. And I said, where do you want to meet? She says, well, he's been talking to me. I guess I'm supposed to meet him at a restaurant. And I'm supposed to meet him down near Food Lion.
Okay.
So I went down to Food Lion, and she met me. And he didn't show up where we went to next. And she had been trying to get a hold of him. And we went to her house for about 2 hours. And then we went back to Food Lion. She wanted me to see if this guy was going to meet her where he was supposed to meet her.
Do you know where?
There was a hotel lobby that he had finally said, meet me at the hotel.
Okay.
She says, drive up there and see if he's there. And I drove up there, and things are starting to sound really squirrely to me. So she says, when you go up there, I want you to drive me around. And
It was textbook manipulation. The moment the grip tightened, Printz distorted the story, planting shadows and praying the cracks in his lies stayed hidden. If you were across the table, watching his every move, how would you break him? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to know what you saw. Printz is not merely attempting to shift suspicion away from himself. He's actively endeavoring to direct it towards another individual, specifically the private investigator. Printz claims that Edna had intended to rendezvous with this investigator the day prior to her reported disappearance, despite reportedly feeling uneasy about meeting him unchaperoned. Fortunately, the investigators possess comprehensive video evidence that utterly disproves Printz's narrative.
Well, and then why did she want you to go back down to the hotel and drive around all the shops and whatnot? What's she scared
She
of?
said he was going to meet her at the hotel. She says, these guys driving a big black truck. Go see if he's even there, because I'm nervous.
Yeah.
And she says, he knows what my vehicle is. So if we're going to go look for him, I don't want to be in my vehicle. I want you to go with me for a little bit. I said, okay. So I left her vehicle for her. And I went and got into my vehicle with her, and we drove around. And then she says, just take me home, because we had come back down this way. This guy had told her to come back down this way to some gas station or something. He was having all kinds of issues, and she was afraid he was running her all over hell and back. And then she finally said, just drop me off at home. And if you drop me off at home, my daughter will pick me up. And I said, because I got to get going. I can't be doing this all day. So that's it.
What were you driving?
I was driving a blue car.
Your wife's car or your car?
My wife's car.
You got a work truck?
No.
Okay. So that's you all coming down 25, you and her together? Back towards the hotel?
It could be.
Okay. Because that's her car. That's about 13:45 on the 27th.
Okay.
So you're with her there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not saying yeah. I'm just saying that could be her.
Yeah, here's a different angle, but I mean, we've watched this car, right?
Okay.
Here's y'all in the hotel parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah? Oh, look. There's y'all backing in.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple of different copies of it. Backing in.
Yeah.
Oh, look. You get out. Nobody else gets out.
I told you that.
You're walking around the car.
Yeah.
You wipe the entire car down.
Because I was worried.
You were worried. There's you walking across the parking lot in front of Little Caesars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's you getting back into your car and driving away.
Oh, she's with me.
Look, man. Where's that?
I don't have a clue.
We need to know. Listen, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
okay? You are a good dude. I honestly do believe that you screwed up years and years ago.
Okay.
Printz appears clearly taken aback by the sheer volume of photographic proof the detective is presenting. Despite the undeniable nature of this evidence, Printz will attempt to fabricate a story to escape accountability. Yet this isn't the sole piece of evidence investigators uncovered. Traces of mud on the tires of Printz's vehicle suggest he drove off-road, leading detectives to suspect he either murdered Edna or disposed of her remains in an unpaved area. But under the crushing weight of evidence, Printz's web of lies unraveled, thread by thread, until the predator beneath was fully exposed.
Nobody is saying that you're some evil, twisted dude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We need to know where it is. We've processed the car. We found the dirt. Where did you go off-road?
I never
Where
went
did you
off-road with her.
leave?
Oh! I can tell you exactly where she and I had gone off-road.
Please.
When we were going from 25 south, there was, off to the right, there was a truck with a trailer and another vehicle there that had a for sale sign on it. And it looked like an older truck. And I needed a work truck. And I went ahead and I pulled in and with her, and then we pulled out.
Even as the walls closed in, Printz clung to his narrative, twisting, deflecting, desperately trying to control the interrogation like it was still his stage. But with every damning detail, the trap constricted, and for the first time, fractures split the calm veneer of Printz's control.
Where's right now? Her family is desperate.
desperately looking for her.
She's missing right now.
Yes, Dan, where is Edna?
I don't have a clue.
Yes,
I
you
dropped
do.
her off at her house.
Dan, please listen. You did not drop her off at her house. We have followed that car the entire day, up and down 25. There's a number of minutes that are unaccounted for that are not by her house. Okay?
Which car? Mine or hers?
Dan, stop playing games. You know what we're
When I
talking
got,
about.
okay, I can help you here.
Okay.
You gotta give me a second. You gotta let me answer the questions when they're asked. When I dropped her vehicle off looking for the guy, she said she wanted me to take her and drive around in my vehicle. So I left her vehicle. I went down to Food Lion and she was in my vehicle with me. And I dropped her off at home.
Dan, we watched the video. She is not.
The car sits there.
It sits there, man.
No, not in her car.
No hurry.
My car.
We
I
watched you
dropped
go
her
back
off
to
with
Food
my
Lion.
car.
You did not drop anyone off, man.
I picked her back up. She sat in my car at Food Lion and I went back and got her.
No, you did not.
Detectives are now actively increasing the pressure on Printz, understanding that his narrative is entirely false. He remains entrenched in denial, however, even casually deflecting the critical accusation that he might have eradicated significant evidence.
Please explain. Explain yourself. Please explain at which point that we must have missed in the video that you dropped her off.
Okay.
We have a lot of it.
Okay. I get that. You don't have picture of her leaving Food Lion in my vehicle with me? If you don't, you should.
Why your vehicle never went back to her house? We have your vehicle, that silver car, going straight up 25 and not stopping at her house. What's your wife gonna think about this?
Well, my wife would be very upset if I had done something, but I didn't, and I don't know where Edna is.
I think you do, Dan.
No. I don't know where Edna is.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Dan.
Let's go back to why you wiped the car down. What you said you were worried about what?
The only thing I did was because I knew I'd been in and out of her car all the time with her. I'm like, there is no way in hell I'm going to just leave this thing here because she's got somebody that's after her.
Printz once more attempts to reroute the focus of suspicion, implying Edna might have been in peril, but he gravely underestimates the thorough preparedness of these investigators.
Because she's got somebody that's after her.
Who would be after her?
After her.
That guy with the fucking truck, she said she didn't trust him.
The PI?
Yeah, so somebody she hired as a PI.
His story's totally different. He's been doing work for her. I mean, on the son-in-law thing. We've interviewed. I mean, he had no, he didn't meet with her today. So it's just,
Right, that's why I said she hired another PI. I'm sure you're recording this. If you
Yeah,
go back and
everything
listen
is.
to it, I told you she said she had to hire another PI and she still.
Investigators successfully maneuvered Printz into acknowledging his presence with Edna on the day she vanished, despite his efforts to convince them he was merely assisting her with a rendezvous involving a questionable private investigator. The authorities immediately recognized this as a desperate maneuver to divert attention and distance himself from the crime. Printz adamantly maintained he had left Edna safely at her home. However, detectives firmly established that he was the last individual to see her alive. And through this intense interrogation, they ensnared him in a falsehood that would ultimately pave the way for a horrifying confession. When investigators searched Printz's property, they uncovered a stash of automatic weapons. Given his prior convictions, he was legally prohibited from owning firearms, putting him at risk for federal charges and a much longer stay behind bars. But the most damning discovery wasn't a weapon. As they combed through his land, investigators found something small, easily overlooked, but critical: a discarded yogurt cup. It was the same brand Printz had purchased just hours before Edna vanished. Forensic tests revealed it was laced with a dangerous combination of drugs: lorazepam, tramadol, and cyclobenzaprine. 3 substances that, when combined, suppress the central nervous system and plunge the body into a deep, unresponsive state. In other words, it was engineered to sedate. exactly matching the condition Edna appeared to be in, slumped beside Printz, barely conscious, unable to resist. After consuming the drugged yogurt, Edna Suttles was rendered completely helpless. From that moment on, the outcome was no longer in her hands. She was led away by a man who had no intention of letting her live. Printz began to grasp the futility of his situation, realizing he had nowhere left to run. Consequently, he was brought back for additional questioning, where he provided a complete confession, admitting to 3 more murders, specifically those of Lee Goodman, Dolores Sears, and her daughter Nancy Rigo. He first recounted the murder of Dolores. Daniel asserted he had euthanized Dolores Sears at the specific request of her daughter, Nancy Rigo. However, Nancy later had second thoughts and contemplated alerting the police, directly placing her in the lethal path of Daniel Printz, a deeply disturbed serial killer. Nancy Rigo thus became his second victim. Even more chilling was the revelation that for several years subsequent to her murder, Daniel had systematically collected Nancy's social security checks because she had previously granted him her power of attorney. Furthermore, the search of Daniel's property also brought to light various documents belonging to Nancy. Since her murder in 2017, Daniel had maintained an elaborate deception, posing as Nancy in emails and messages sent to her family, attempting to prevent them from suspecting her demise. Daniel's third victim was Lee Goodman, who, according to Daniel, had attempted to rob him. Much like Nancy and Edna, Goodman's body was purportedly disposed of in some desolate, remote area. Finally, Daniel's fourth and ultimate victim was Edna Suttles, whose remains were discovered a year later, on May 16, 2022, in a grave located close to Daniel's home in Rutherford County. Despite the state of decomposition, forensic officers were able to positively identify the body as Edna's, allowing her remains to be returned to her grieving loved ones. Yet, even in the face of his confessed atrocities, he never relinquished an opportunity to leverage any information he possessed.
There are things that have to happen, and there are things that are going to happen. And I'm a realist, and I have acceptance with this. I would like a little bit of control in how they happen. If you tell them to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely.
The moment the cameras clicked off, Printz made his final calculated play, one last grasp to steer the narrative back under his control. Daniel Printz circumvented a full trial by striking a bargain with the authorities. He offered to disclose the precise whereabouts of Edna's body. In exchange, his case would be transferred to the federal system, a transfer he clearly desired due to the significantly better living conditions found in federal penitentiaries. Furthermore, this deal meant he would avoid the death penalty, receiving a life sentence instead. One might assume that detectives were remarkably naive to switch off their cameras and failed to record Daniel's confession. However, unbeknownst to Printz, the investigators had discreetly maintained a backup audio recording, which continued to capture every word even after the video equipment was powered down. But even in confession, Printz played his final sick game, trading truth for leniency, revealing horrors that would haunt investigators forever. If you want more stories that peel back the shadows, subscribe to Grim Vault, where the darkest stories never stay hidden.